In this series of short videos, Professor William Calvin at the University of Washington in Seattle and Roz Mason at the CO2 Foundation are telling the story of why we must quickly remove carbon dioxide from the air. About 10 years ago, extreme weather became much worse and much more frequent. Here is the sudden surge in tornadoes and other severe windstorms a decade ago. There used to be only one event a year that exceeded $1 billion in damage. But after 2005, they averaged 3 big ones a year. And after 2010, the big ones occurred 7 times as often. They still do. What's going on? It started with excess carbon dioxide, abbreviated CO2, accumulating in the air overhead. That creates an insulating blanket, producing warmer winters and hotter summers. And because land warms 2.5 times faster than the ocean surface, the winds and rains between them may go different directions or at different speeds. That green summer-winter sawtooth would be flat, except for humans burning oil, coal, and natural gas. Notice how, in the last decade, that CO2 curve is rising more steeply. Our efforts at emissions reductions ought to make it rise more slowly, but they are proving insufficient. Developing countries are burning more of their own fossil fuels to create electricity, and as they need more air conditioning, their emissions will continue to increase. So CO2 will continue to grow unless we start removing it from the air. Our emissions reduction will never achieve zero emissions globally. To see why developing countries need more air conditioning, here is the graph of global average temperature. It follows the CO2 upwards most of the time. There were 3 episodes where nature provided some temporary cooling influences for several years, such as the high haze left over from volcanic eruptions. Then in 2003, the global average temperature didn't cool, but at least it stopped rising. This pause in global temperature continued for about 10 years before the annual temperature rose more steeply than ever before. When it began, everyone thought the pause would provide some relief. But at least 4 types of extreme weather surged back then, not just the windstorms shown earlier. Episode 2 will show the others and why they make the removal of excess CO2 so urgent. There's more at co2foundation.org about sudden hits on agriculture and on how to remove CO2 and cool us off. Remember to tell your politicians about this new threat from extreme weather. They really need to know why we must remove CO2 in a hurry.